20 years ago, I was one of the fortunate people to be invited to the opening of the CCA with my partners, and we came to Montreal, and we participated and came to as many events as we could. One of the things that I think is the biggest impact of the CCA on the way we look at the world is that it raised the standard of quality and excellence to such a high level, not only in this building, but just at a much higher level, higher than I, as a Canadian architect, had ever imagined. And how important is that? Because what happened is that it changed the way we looked at making our work. I mean, Phyllis actually said to us very early, there are all these conversations, but she said, really, Bruce, it's about the art of architecture. And I'll never forget that, and it has been one of the motivating forces in the way we pursue practice. You know, the 20 years that you saw up on the screen are really, really impressive. I mean, that's what I got out of it. It's just how dense that history is. You know, some of the finest minds in architecture were on the stage, and some of the greatest exhibitions in architecture anywhere in the world have been here. But after that 20 years, we're in a remarkable position today because that foundation has been laid. It's really a kind of cultural infrastructure that's been put in place here in Montreal that has global reach. And I think from the things that Gilles was talking about and the kinds of exhibitions that I've seen here that Mirko has been very much a part of, you can sense the shift at the CCA from really looking at, in the first order, history and theory, photography, and capital A architecture, into planning, urbanism, into landscape, into contemporary art, into the way in which we live in a contemporary society. And you can feel it changing right now. I think we're at a moment of great change, and I'm really looking forward to the next 20 years because the platform is here in Montreal. And so the first thing I would say to you is never take this place for granted. You know, I think Canadians often never realize what we have. And we have incredible things here. This is one of them. And so as a board member, one of my missions is to make sure no one in this country actually takes this place for granted. The collaborations that have been going on with the great schools of architecture and design schools in Montreal is amazing, but we want that across the country. It's been going on. We're going to build on that. I think for architects, I certainly want the relationship between research and practice to be fully integrated and very much having an impact on the way contemporary practice is understood. And there is tremendous integration in every discipline. In the 21st century, I think the thing that characterizes the best architecture and urbanism of the 21st century is that it is integrated in ways that I think were only talked about before. So what I'm hoping for is that that bridge that's been built between Montreal and Canada, between Canada and the rest of the world, is a very strong cultural bridge. You know, I've been really reflecting a lot on 20 years past, 2020, hindsight's 2020. You can only see it later, and you see the kind of, I think the sort of vision is easy to see 20 years later. But how do we look forward? So I'd just like to close by saying that one of the remarkable things I think of as being a Canadian is how different our democracy is. There is an annual survey that I watch every year, and Canadians are the only people left in the world who are open to new immigrants. The Americans used to be with us. You know, the Germans aren't. You know, UK used to be, but aren't. And I think you have to think about that. And I think we live in a very unique place, and I think we have to build on it. So when I look at the 2009, which I look at the 2 zeros, but I actually think of them as letters. And the first thing I think is look forward to the future. The fundamental condition of our civility is openness. It's the openness to have other people actually participate in our way of life, to live their lives on their own terms in Canada. And the second is optimism. As my mother said, my mother's 96, living alone at home in Hamilton, and she said to me, "Bruce, you've got to think positive." Thank you very much.